Okay, so this ties in a very interesting point now. So we know they're criminals and they're murderers, and I've been calling Adar Poonawala, Serum Institute, Bill Gates, exactly that for a very long time. And suddenly one day I see my email, and the Serum Institute has filed a 100 crore defamation case against me for calling them mass murderers, and currently a trial is going on in court for that, and a couple of hearings have happened. So to answer your question, like you asked that why was the AstraZeneca vaccine never taken out, right? And we have conclusive evidence that the government did know, the authorities did know. We were fighting a case against vaccine mandates back in late 2021. This is really early on, okay? And these points were being made in court. Our lawyer was making these points on our behalf that even that time, so many European countries had banned AstraZeneca as a result of even one death. I remember in Brazil, there was this one death, pregnant lady, and they had banned the vaccine. And in India, the narrative, really, the Chief Justice of the Bombay High Court told us, okay, what's the percentage of people that are dying? Right? So he was trying to kind of downplay the thing in the first hearing. But after we showed him a victim of, someone who suffered as a result of the vaccine, the mother of the same child I'm talking about, then they became a little soft. Then the hearings happened, and then they'll ended up changing their mind. So the issue really ties into the adverse event reporting system.
Well, congratulations in overturning the mandates.
Thank you.
Very, very good.
That was a long struggle, but thanks to our dedicated team, our lawyers, Advocate Nilesh Oja, he really fought very hard in the Bombay High Court, and Advocate Prashant Bhushan also, who was working with us, he fought in the Supreme Court, and we overturned the mandates after a year-long struggle. So that's a story in and of itself. But the point I was making is that you rightly mentioned that there's massive underreporting in the adverse event system. Like you were saying that even in UK, if you're seeing so many adverse events, so many of them are going underreporting, and it's just capturing maybe 10%. In US, you have, I think, there's a study that showed that the VAERS system is just capturing 1% of adverse events. You can just imagine if that is the case in UK. Okay, so I have this like quick analysis that we even presented to court. This is compiled sometime early 2022, late 2021. We compiled data just showing comparison of UK and India. Okay, so in UK, 25 million people received the AstraZeneca shot, and the number of deaths that time in the reporting system was 1,138. In India, 740 million people received Covishield, and the number of deaths are 850. Right? How does that make any sense? This is, even when this data
is likely inaccurate. It's likely inaccurate, Johan. Absolutely.
No, and
India has not been very good traditionally at collecting data anyway, for lots of different reasons. Some of them practical, and therefore, in my view, Indian governments and certainly the judiciary should have been looking at the data from abroad to make their decisions about India.
Right. So when we presented this data, and it was very clear to see that there is underreporting. In fact, even the head of the AEFI committee out here, Narendra Arora, he recently admitted an article in Scroll where he was shown the AEFI rates in other countries and out here, that he said that yes, this is likely a result of underreporting. And even a journalist called Priyanka Pulla, she wrote an editorial or an opinion piece in the British Medical Journal about India's underreporting problem when it comes to adverse events. We personally know so many victims, who've had taken the vaccine, someone in the family's taken it, something's happened. They've gone to the center. They've literally gone to the place to report it. It's very rare, firstly, that people even made the connection, because these government bureaucrats who are in the pockets of these pharmaceutical companies, they came out and gave these narratives like the vaccine is 110% safe, against which also we've done cases and made them parties in our petition. But because of these kind of narratives, firstly, people didn't even make the connection. Then the people who made the connection, when they went to report the adverse event, the person over there told them, no, it has nothing to do with the vaccine. So the event doesn't even land up getting captured. So because of these kind of systemic problems, we've not had the numbers really show up in the adverse event system out here, which has also been a little bit of a challenge when we're going to court and we're presenting data, because we don't have that kind of Indian data in the systems to show that. Which is why when you went on Barkha's show, these people are just conveniently spinning these narratives that the vaccine is safe and the adverse events are, minuscule and tiny. And they're spinning this false narrative that the vaccine saved millions of lives. I think it was a paper in Lancet that was published, where based on a mathematical model, they concluded that the vaccine saved so many lives. So this, just to summarize the question, this is something that we've often been confronted with when we're showing adverse event data, even to the court right now in my case that's going on. The party ahead is arguing that yes, these tiny adverse events are there, which they've artificially shown to be tiny because of the factors I mentioned. On the other hand, they're saying that the vaccine saved millions of lives. So what is your opinion on the vaccine saving lives and reducing hospitalizations?
Yeah, it's a very good point, Johan. So, the Lancet paper I think you're referring to was a modeling study. And how about we start? Let's go further back, right? If we start from, according to the Stephen Hawking of medicine, John Ioannidis. Okay, he's the most cited medical researcher in the world. His credentials are impeccable and incomparable. He is a professor of medicine and epidemiology and statistics at Stanford. Okay, one of the brightest minds in medicine and very high scientific integrity. Many years ago,
said that most published research findings
yes.
are false.
So if we start from that, exactly what I was going to say. Most published research findings are false. In other words, much, if not most, published research is not reliable. Because the conclusions of the research, often funded by drug industry, exaggerate the benefits and the safety of their products. So start from there. But even within research, you have a hierarchy of evidence of what is more likely to be reliable and less reliable. And this modeling study suggesting that millions of people have been saved by the vaccine, which I'm not saying is false at the moment, but I'm saying that the actual level of evidence of that study is very, very poor. I did a breakdown myself, certainly looking at Pfizer vaccine, just to give you an idea during the Delta wave. And the reason I mention this is certainly with the original trials, the efficacy of these vaccines tended to be quite similar. So with the Pfizer mRNA vaccine during the Delta wave, and by the way, this is best case scenario. This may not even be true, but this is best case scenario. You had to vaccinate 230 people over the age of 80 to prevent one COVID death, 520 if you're between 70 and 80, 1,000 between 60 and 70. And then when you're under 60, you're talking about thousands. I mean, if you're under 50, at least 10,000 people you have to vaccinate to prevent COVID death. And you're talking about a serious adverse event rate, certainly with the Pfizer vaccine, of at least 1 in 800. So this claim of millions and millions of lives being saved from COVID, I think is at best exaggerated and at worst completely false. The question is, how do you balance that out with the serious adverse events? And then was informed consent also part of the discussion? And when you get to that level, Johan, even at best, I think it may have been slightly beneficial for vulnerable groups at the very beginning during the Wuhan strain. But certainly now, and certainly since then, most people, and that's my analysis showed, I think overall, when you look at everybody that took it, we've done more harm than good for sure. And that's awful. And by the way, this is also interestingly, you talk about the lives being saved. This didn't account for over-testing or people who died within 28 days of being diagnosed with having a positive COVID test, as opposed to be dying primarily because of COVID. In the UK, only about 10% of people who died in the UK ultimately had COVID as the only main cause of death. So we have to look at all of these things as well and take into consideration. But to answer your question, did 20 million lives get saved across the world because of the vaccines, COVID vaccines? I think it's likely to be false. If 20 million lives were saved, you can extrapolate from the original randomized controlled trials, certainly with Pfizer, where there was no reduction in all-cause mortality. And in fact, more people died slightly in the vaccine group versus the placebo. If we have saved 20 million lives from COVID, and I don't think this is true, we've also killed 20 million lives from the vaccine.